What do you say, everybody? And welcome to Bama Insider and the Bama Insider YouTube channel. And we appreciate you being here with us now that we're part of the On3 network. We're getting bigger and better. And we are so happy that you're a part of what we do. And what we do is we talk Alabama. We do it 7 days a week. And you know that because you watch this site. Make sure you like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. That's a way that you say roll tide to us. Tonight we're going to talk recruiting, and we want you guys to be a part of it. Before I bring on Joseph Hastings, let me tell you this. You can get all of his latest news and notes and everything else that has to do with Alabama by going to Bamainsider.com and getting the 1-year subscription, only $1. $1, not $1 a month, $1, just $1, 12 months. You get all the Andrew Bone, you get all of the Joseph Hastings, you get all those guys and everything else Alabama. So make sure that you do that. Hit the bell and know when we're going live as well. Look, it says Andrew Bone at the top. It's the Andrew Bone Recruiting Show. And Joseph, it's you and me tonight. Bone's out. He's under the weather today, so we're stepping in.
Long time no see, Mick. Yes, and I'll assume the role of Andrew Bone tonight. You know, obviously cannot do that long term. He is so great at what he does, but I'll do my best to replicate what he brings to the table.
Well, we can talk recruiting in Bone's absence tonight, and both of us kind of feel like we're in the shadow of greatness. But you know what? We'll just band together tonight and see if we can make the audience happy. I want to see your comments in the comments section. Bone is out, but he's not down. He's feeling under the weather. He's not down for good, though. He's just down for tonight. So we're stepping in, and we're going to talk about this Alabama recruiting class. And you cover these guys, and you cover what Alabama is doing right now. Just give me your thoughts on where we're at with this class.
Yeah, this class is really interesting because even though they have 21 total commits right now, you could theoretically see, I know it's not going to happen, 15 prospects joining. Just the potential is there for several different prospects at key positions to join the class. Look, at one point, I didn't even know if Alabama was going to sign a tight end in this class. Now we got one in the fold with Ty Lockwood. They've got one in the fold with Ty Lockwood and are still pursuing several others. They're going to get 5-star tight end Deuce Robinson on campus for the Texas A&M game on October 8th. So, offensive line recruiting, they've got 5 commits, yet, they're still in touch with several other players at the position. Obviously, defensive line is a position group that they need to address. You could theoretically see them adding 3 to 4 more players in the trenches before it's all said and done. Linebacker recruiting still could add 2 or 3 more. There's just a lot of options left on the table for Alabama, but thus far, what they've been able to put together is the number 1 recruiting class in the nation. And for all those who have doubted Nick Saban, NIL is gonna put Alabama back. They're not even gonna sign a top 10 class in this cycle. I heard some people say that. That has not happened at all. Alabama is continuing to dominate as they typically do on the recruiting trail, and we'll get to some of these commitments here. You see the full list, but just stars all over. The top 2 JUCO players in the nation, a trio of 5-star defensive backs with the possibility of adding another one. Mick, this is just a great class that could potentially get even better, believe it or not.
Yeah, look, and that's kind of where I want to start. Let's talk about the biggest gets. And then we'll swing back and kind of get into some of the guys that they haven't gotten, at least yet. I think of one big target from Thompson High School. But let's talk about the big targets that they have gotten, and that includes another big target from Thompson, but a lot of really good players.
Yes, so you mentioned there Tony Mitchell. At the end of June, Alabama was able to land his commitment, which at the time, leading up to his decision, there was some speculation that Texas A&M was actually going to be the school to come out on top. There was a prediction that, was submitted in the Aggies' favor for the program to land Mitchell. Instead, he ended up committing to Alabama over the Aggies, Georgia, Auburn, other schools there that were in the mix for him until the very end. So that was a huge gain. They still need to continue recruiting him. He took a visit to Texas A&M last month. They still need to keep on doing what they've been doing, which is staying in consistent contact and showing him that he's a priority. But that's a huge get. You look at the other defensive backs in this class, Jaleel Hurley. out of Florence. The reviews from him have been nothing but positive on the camp circuit and just what he's been able to do at his high school. Caleb Downs as well. You look at Caleb Downs and you see his commitment and Justice Haynes' commitment as two of the biggest surprises in this 2023 class, more so with Haynes than with Downs. But Georgia just won a national championship, their first championship in over 40 years. Downs lives just about an hour away from Athens, Georgia. And Georgia was able to put 17 players into the NFL draft in April, and most of them being defensive players. You would have thought the momentum would have been in UGA's favor, especially after the championship win, but Alabama was able to come out on top here and also beat out Ohio State, which was really high on his list, a program he was strongly considering and has been for a long time. So a massive haul there. Justice Haynes, a Georgia legacy, the son of Baron Haynes, who was a running back with UGA. Just the fact that Robert Gillespie, credit to him and what he's been able to do, not only at Alabama, but going back to North Carolina. That's when his pursuit of Haynes started. The relationship he built there. You see that right there on the On3 recruiting prediction machine. This is kind of crazy. 95.5%. In favor of Georgia, Alabama at 1.4%. Just going to show how much of a shocker and how much of a big get this was. And then, a couple of other notes. Alabama landed the top 2 JUCO players in the country, Malik Benson and Justin Jefferson. That's huge. The offensive line class that Eric Wolford and company have been able to put together in Wolford's first year on the staff. Richard Young, a borderline 5-star prospect who is considering the likes of Oregon, Georgia, Ohio State. Just top to bottom, this class has pretty much everything you need. Even the kicker commit, Connor Talty, kicked a 51-yard field goal at the high school level, in his first game. There's just so much to like about this class, Mick. We could spend the whole show on the 2023 class and what Alabama's put together.
Yeah, it really seems interesting. I mean, what is it about playing for Nick Saban that is still attracting these young men to come to Tuscaloosa?
Winning, development. You know that you're gonna, if you sign with Alabama, you're likely going to win a championship if you stay 4 years there at the program. You know that you're probably going to have a higher chance to be developed for at the NFL level, especially at certain positions. Especially wide receiver in recent years. You look at defensive backs, just all around, and now quarterbacks with Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, and Jalen Hurts, and Bryce Young. There's just so much to like about Alabama and what they've been able to do under Saban's tenure, and the fact that they haven't slowed down. You look at last season, getting to the national championship. They lost to Georgia, yes, but another national championship appearance followed on the heels of a championship, of a championship that they won the year before. So, there's just so much about the Crimson Tide program that prospects are attracted to, and that they like. And the player development, the winning, the way the program is run top to bottom, the coaching staff, how active they are on the recruiting trail. It's really a well-oiled machine, and they just haven't stopped. They don't rest on their laurels. They aren't satisfied with winning a championship or winning 2 championships or 3 or now 6 under Saban. They continue to keep pushing forward, and that's why they do so well on the recruiting trail.
Talking recruiting with Joseph Hastings, and I want to remind you guys that as you hang out with us here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel, like and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and in that comment section, you guys keep throwing those comments in there. I see, I love them. I love the personal complexes comments as well, Ron. I'll get to that later on in the show. But I appreciate all you guys. So does Joseph. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. In for Andrew Bone, who is under the weather. He's going to be okay. Talk to him this afternoon, but he's just kind of sick, man. It's going around right now. So said, you guys do it, and that's what we're doing right now. Let's talk about the biggest misses that Alabama has had, right? I feel like defensive line's been an area where Alabama hasn't quite picked up the momentum that we expected, and that started to me when Robert Woods said, hey, I'm going to Clemson and Dabo Swinney instead of Nick Saban. But I really feel like that also caused Nick Saban to dig in a little bit deeper and push harder, and Alabama starting to pick up that area as well.
Yeah, you can look at other misses in this class, like Brandon Innes, who went to Ohio State. Alabama finished second in his recruitment. Malik Muhammad, who went to Texas last month, committed to Texas last month, and you can point to those type of misses. But it really starts and ends with Kelby Collins and Peter Woods. Like you mentioned, Woods committed to Clemson on July 8th. That was a big disappointment for Alabama fans and the program, because for most of his recruitment, he was viewed as a heavy Crimson Tide lean, has been on campus so many times, grew up a fan of the Crimson Tide, actually attended his commitment ceremony. And I saw that, he had a picture on the Alabama table, because he had four different tables for the four finalists. And on the Alabama table is a picture of him in an Alabama jersey as a kid. I mean, so considering all the factors there, you would have to say that, he and the fact that he's a 5-star defensive lineman. If you've watched Thompson these first two games of the season against Lipscomb Academy and Buford, you just see that Woods is a dominating presence in the middle of the defensive line. He's probably the biggest miss so far in this class, and then followed up by Kelby Collins, who ended up committing to Florida. Kind of a similar situation to Woods. He's been on campus so many times and grew up a fan of Alabama, Birmingham area kid. You just expect for the Crimson Tide to win out there. The good news here, he will be taking an official visit to Alabama for the Texas A&M game. You'd imagine that the Crimson Tide will get him on campus at least one more time for an unofficial visit throughout the season. So, when you talk about the chances of flipping either one, you have to point to Collins as the one that Alabama's chances are the most favorable with. But yes, it is disappointing. And for right now, those two are misses. They are, Collins is on track to sign with UF. Woods is on track to sign with Clemson. That's how you have to kind of approach, recruiting, because we could just look at Alabama's class and be like, well, Tony Mitchell may not end up in this class, or Caleb Downs is still talking to other schools. He may not end up in this class. You can kind of put yourself in, in a loop there. But yes, for right now, up until this point, those two are the biggest misses for Alabama in this class.
Who do you think the biggest sleeper prospect in this class is right now?
I said it before, I'll say it again. Hunter Osborne. He's somebody that, and when we discussed this, Alabama wasn't necessarily aggressively pursuing for most of their time that they had offered him. He received that offer from Alabama back in January, but other schools were putting forth a better effort. Clemson, Texas, even Tennessee, and you started to hear some rumblings about Clemson potentially coming out on top. I think at one point Texas felt pretty confident, but Alabama was able to pick up the momentum for him after Peter Woods' commitment to Clemson, and they were able to land his commitment. So, you look at him, he's 6'3.5", 250 pounds. I talked with On3 director of scouting and rankings, Charles Power. He believes that Osborne has the ability to slide either inside or outside. When he gets to college, it's just going to kind of depend on how his body develops in David Ballou's strength and conditioning program. But he has a ton of potential. Very disruptive player, really effective in the run game, stopping the opponent's rushing attack. Gonna have to kind of work on that pass rushing ability, but just speaking with Charles, he believes that Hunter Osborne has all the tools that you want from a Power 5 defensive lineman, and not only that, an Alabama defensive lineman at the next level. So I'm very excited about him. He's someone who doesn't really get talked about enough, especially with the misses of Peter Woods and Kelby Collins and the disappointment there. But he's someone that Alabama fans should be really excited about.
One thing I've noticed is a lot of these guys that you're bringing up are Alabama players, high school players in Alabama, and it's not always the case that Alabama recruits this heavily within its own borders. That's not to say that when there are good players, they don't. It's a national recruiting base, but it just seems like this year there's a ton of talent in the Yellowhammer State.
I was actually talking on a Twitter space about this. It was primarily an Alabama-based, Twitter space talking about recruiting in the state, and we just talked about the talent that's in there and how many prospects, elite prospects, are coming out of it. Coming out of the state in the 2024 class, I believe On3 has 8 of the top 100 players. They're from Alabama, and on the 2025 On3 100 watch list, I believe 8 of them were from Alabama too. So just a ton of talent coming out of the state. And look, with more talent means more likely you are to miss out on that type of talent. Because if you're able to focus on 4 or 5 set guys and prioritize them heavily, your chances increase of keeping them in the state. But when you've got 10, 11 legitimate players, legitimate prospects that you're pursuing in a given class, that makes it pretty difficult to keep all of them home, while also being able to land some of those out-of-state guys as well. We talked about it on the show before. There's kind of a give and take here. If Alabama is going to land a Justice Haynes, a Georgia legacy, a Caleb Downs, Richard Young, one of the top players in Florida, Eli Holstein, one of the top players in Louisiana, there is a chance that you're going to miss out on some of, your own guys who may do the same as those other players, leave the state and carve out their own legacy elsewhere. But, so you bring up a really great point. There's just so much talent in Alabama, and unfortunately, you can't keep them all home. I think Alabama has done a fairly good job, especially if they're able to land James Smith and Quay Rousseau, and Kelby Collins and Peter Woods don't sign. I think it would still be a solid class, not a perfect class, but it would be a solid class. But obviously, just a ton of talent. You look at it there. You got kids going to Clemson, got kids going to Alabama, Georgia, Florida. Just top to bottom there. There's just so many prospects to look at and evaluate and say that they have really great potential at the next level.
Yeah, a lot of big time recruits in the state of Alabama. And when you look at this Alabama class, they have a ton of offensive linemen, right? So the question I have for you is, what's more likely? Is it going to be 6 offensive linemen for Alabama this class, or 2 tight ends, or both?
That's a really good question, because when you look at Alabama's recruiting efforts, you think, okay, there's more priorities at different positions. There's more priorities along the defensive line, of course, with only 2 D linemen committed. You're still trying to get Santarian Perkins, the Ole Miss commit, on board at the linebacker position. Keon Keeley, Quay Rousseau, Damon Wilson, those are a trio of edge targets for Alabama. And then they're also still trying to get another cornerback. See, the last thing you kind of think about is, okay, you signed 4 tight ends in the last cycle. Do you really need another one? And not only that, do you need 2 more? So I think that's a really interesting dynamic with how they're approaching the tight end position, considering what they were able to do in the 2022 class. And then with offensive line, you look at the players they have in the fold now. They've kind of been able to address a lot of those needs. I was doing a piece actually that just ran on Bamainsider, and I took the average height, weight of each Alabama offensive lineman commit, and it came out to about 6'5" and some change, and 340 pounds. So they got some big dudes in the trenches that they're bringing in, and they've been able to kind of check off the boxes, but they're still pursuing players at each position. I would go with 2 tight ends for right now, just because you're getting Deuce Robinson on campus. Like I mentioned before, you're still in touch with several key players like Cooper Flanagan. He's a Notre Dame commit, but Alabama's maintaining consistent contact with him. Luke has an Arkansas commit. Lawson Lucky, a Georgia commit. Those 2, the last 2 I mentioned, officially visited Alabama in June. I just think the chances of landing one of those guys is more than the chances of landing a Monroe Freeling, who just committed to Georgia, Caden Proctor, and an Iowa native who's committed to the Hawkeyes, and Samson Okunlola out of Massachusetts, who's a heavy Miami Hurricanes lean. I would give the edge to the tight end position right now. Though I'm stuck on it. It's something I kind of wrestle. Like, is Alabama really gonna be able to pull that off? If they do, who would it be? I don't think it's necessarily likely that they get either of those 2 tight ends or 6 offensive linemen in this class, but they're still trying.
No doubt about it. Alabama with some big-time commits. We're talking about it. Also some big-time targets that they're still after. But let me remind all of you guys, as you hang out with us here tonight, to hit the like and subscribe button. Give us the thumbs up. We love hanging out with you here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Our goal is to have as many subscribers as there are seats at Bryant-Denny Stadium. So we're closing in on that number, and we want you guys to make sure that we get there and help us out. So like, subscribe, share, hit the bell so that you know when we're going on the air live. And we do a lot of shows on here. We cover Nick Saban's press conferences. We talk about recruiting. We I've got the tailgate show coming up Friday night to get you ready for the game on Saturday. We'll be on after the game with our post-game show. It goes on and on and on. So we want you to be part of that. And don't forget, right now you can sign up for BamaInsider.com, part of On3, $1 for a year subscription. So take advantage of that. It's not going to last forever. And while we do have it, you're going to want that. At least give it a try, man. I mean, it's $1, $1. That's so easy when you're talking about the cost of everything else these days. That's not even like, you could think if you put $1 worth of gas in your tank, you probably couldn't even pull out of the gas pump area. He's Joseph Hastings. I'm Mick Gillespie. We're talking recruiting right now, in for Andrew Bone. All right, McClain, Alabama going after Cormani McClain. How's his recruitment playing out?
That's a really interesting recruitment that, honestly, I haven't been really able to get too much of a good read on. I do believe that Florida is the school that is most likely to come out on top for him at this time. He's going to be taking a visit to UF this upcoming weekend for their season opener against Utah, but it's just a tough recruitment to read because you heard some momentum for Alabama back in July, especially after he took a visit to the school in June. On3 Director of Recruiting Chad Simmons submitted a prediction in favor of the Crimson Tide last month, and you just started to hear some rumblings about them. And then, recently you started hearing positive rumblings about UF in Gainesville and their chances with him. He's very familiar with Florida's program. Billy Napier's staff has done an exceptional job in his first recruiting cycle. I believe they have the number 9 overall class on the On3 consensus rankings right now. Cormani feels very comfortable at the school. His mother does as well. They've been on campus a number of times. They've been the school that he once labeled as the leader for his services, and they've always been at or near the top in his recruitment, even when Dan Mullen was the head coach. Now, Alabama, look, if they get someone on campus, especially for an official visit, I don't think you should take that lightly. Cormani intends on taking an official visit for the Texas A&M game. If they're able to get him on campus for that game and potentially even another one, that would be huge for the Crimson Tide's chances. And honestly, it could really kind of just depend on what the timeline of this recruitment is. I think it benefits Alabama more if Cormani stretches this out until the end. If he stretches this out until December. Florida has a tough schedule on their slate. I mentioned the Utah game. That's a top 10 team they're going up against, even though it's going to be a home game. They've got Georgia, the defending national champions. They're going on the road at Texas A&M and at Tennessee. The Volunteers expected to be a more improved program this year. Florida could be in for a tough transition year. Maybe McClain looks at a 7-5 Florida and compares it to a potentially undefeated Alabama team that just won the SEC championship, and heading into his decision and signing day, he opts to choose the Crimson Tide because they have the momentum not only as a team but on the recruiting trail as well. I think it definitely benefits Alabama if this one gets taken out until the end, but for right now, it kind of remains to be seen. Cormani said last month that he's going to make a decision in December. His mom indicated on Twitter a few weeks ago that it could be sooner than that. So it's one we're continuing to closely monitor. Not much is really getting out of that camp. But Alabama and Florida, those are the two schools to watch out there. And with UF being the school that I would pick if he had to choose today.
Florida trying to get back in the mix of some major recruits, and to be able to win a national championship, you got to win on National Signing Day, right? And so picking up big-time talent was something that the Gators did when Rueben Bain was their head coach, and obviously, they're trying to fight their way back in now. Kind of talking about McClain and the 5-star guys, how many 5 stars do you think Alabama will end up signing?
Whew. That's a good one because right now they have a trio of 5 stars, as I mentioned before. Richard Young is just one spot shy. He's literally just one spot shy. Number 33, number 32 is would get him the 5-star status. So it could kind of just depend on how the rankings play out. You look at Peter Woods, as I mentioned before. Could you see him in this class? Absolutely.
Yeah.
James Smith, if you get James Smith and Quay Rousseau, that's another 2 right there. Keon Keeley, I believe Alabama is trending right now for him. Though once again, Florida's a school that's going to potentially give Alabama some trouble there. They're a program he's really high on. Could you see Keon Keeley in this class? Absolutely. Cormani McClain, could you see him in this class? Absolutely. So you could theoretically see 5 more 5-star prospects join the fold before it's all said and done, which could get Alabama up to 8 total 5-star commits, and if the rankings
Wow.
work out their way, and Richard Young gets bumped up another one, that would be 9, which would tie the On3 consensus rankings record. I believe Georgia had 9 in the 2018 cycle, and Texas A&M had 9 last cycle. So look, I'm not saying it's going to happen. Trust me, I'm not. I'm not going to make that prediction. I'm not going to go on record with that one. We can talk off the record after the show about my thoughts on that. But I absolutely think that it's definitely a possibility for Alabama to get to that, to get to 6 or 7. I would probably lean 6 right now. That would be. It would be kind of a safe bet, but it would be by far the most in this recruiting cycle. So I'm going to go with 6 for my answer.
Okay, well, and we still have plenty of time for this to play itself out. But, Nick Saban and his staff on the prowl right now. And as you can see, number 1 in the country and, right up there with 3 5-stars and the potential, if everything fell their way, to maybe get 8. And you're saying that 6 is really doable for this number 1 class right now, which would not surprise any of us that have been following Alabama recruiting. All right, let's talk about Rueben Bain. Had 3 sacks against IMG. Is Alabama in this recruitment?
They absolutely are in this recruitment. I actually texted Rueben Bain yesterday and asked him if he had scheduled a visit to Alabama. He said he hasn't yet, but he's working on it, which is significant because Bain took an official visit to Alabama back in June. He also took a trip in April and also took one last year as well for the LSU game. So he's been on campus a trio of times, doesn't necessarily need to get back since he's already seen a game day visit. He's seen the team in the spring, and he's also been on campus for an official visit. But he told me a few weeks ago that he wants to take multiple, not just one, multiple trips to Tuscaloosa this season, and that would be huge for the Crimson Tide. The fact that he's working on setting one up, is a great sign. Miami kind of has a lot going in their favor. Bain's brother is on Miami staff. He's a product of Miami. The Hurricanes are obviously building a pretty good class in their own right, just like the Florida Gators. So look, if I had to pick today, I'm going with Miami here, but the way Alabama has been recruiting Bain is something that he's really attracted to. He's really built a good relationship with Travaris Robinson, going back to his time on Miami staff, and also Freddie Roach. The coaching staff there is doing an excellent job. Nick Saban is also pitching in. And if Alabama's able to get him on campus even just one more time, I think they could make things interesting. I would probably say it's more so 75% Miami, 25% Alabama, which I think would be a shock for some people because of how much Miami has going on in their favor. But it's a testament to the job the Crimson Tide have done so far with him, and the strong impression they made on him specifically during that official visit.
Oh, that'd be interesting. I mean, what a pull that would be, right? Going against your own brother, right? Like, crazy. That's the way it works. So sometimes
we've seen it this cycle. Look, Peter Woods, Kelby Collins leaving what many perceive to be the school that was going to land them for most of the recruitments, leaving Alabama and heading elsewhere, heading out of the state. You've seen some other top defensive linemen in this class leave the states that they're in, opt to choose a school that is elsewhere, kind of carving out their own legacy. So you can't rule it out. I know he's listed as an edge on his profile there. I saw him in person. So you see him against IMG Academy. He's going to be a defensive lineman. It honestly just depends if he's going to be a defensive end or in the interior. But just put Rueben Bain on the football field. He'll do some damage. So it would be a huge pickup for Alabama. Absolutely.
Oh, it'd be great. All right. Well, give me your closing thoughts on the 2023 recruiting class as of today, as of the 30th of August.
Don't worry, Alabama fans. Do not worry. I know there's stress about the Kelby Collins and Peter Woods of the world going elsewhere. Is Alabama going to be able to keep home James Smith and Quay Rousseau? Worried about the D-line recruiting, if they're going to truly be able to address it, or if they're going to have to go to some plan B options. At this time, I still envision Alabama coming out on top with the number 1 recruiting class. I think they're well on their way to doing so. They've addressed a lot of needs in this class. Look, they signed the 2 top hold commitments, from 2 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the country. They hold commitments from 2 of the top 3 running backs in the country. Wolford and company have been able to land 5 of their top 7 or 8 offensive lineman targets. They've really done an exceptional job when it comes to O-line recruiting. They could potentially flip Suntarian Perkins, add a few 5-stars linebackers at Quay Rousseau and Keon Keeley. So look, Alabama's class right now is number 1. I still expect it to be when it's all said and done. And, it's honestly going to be interesting to see how it finishes. How many commits do they end up signing? Is it going to be 29, 30, 31? What that final number is going to be, how they address each of these positions. But thus far, Alabama has done an exceptional job. And honestly, like I said before, it could only continue to get better for them from here on out.
Exceptional job. That's what you did tonight, my friend. Joseph A. Hastings on Twitter. Great job breaking it down, filling in for Andrew Bone, and kind of keeping us updated, man. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
This is great. Hopefully we don't have to do this again because of the circumstances, with Andrew. Hopefully he gets better. He's resting up. But I will be back Monday Night QB.
Monday Night QB. That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Joseph Hastings always giving us the best that's out there. One comment from the comment section, Ron, you personally asked me if I've been to Miss Shirley's Cafe in Baltimore, Annapolis. No, but I do like French toast. So next time I go, I'll definitely check it out. I did grow up in that area, but not in the Annapolis area, Baltimore. I know it very well. Just haven't been there. All right, for Chris Daughtry, who's behind the scenes doing a fantastic job as always, Kyle Henderson, who puts all of this together, and Andrew Bone, who's on the mend right now for Joseph. I'm Mick Gillespie. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Make sure you like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Make sure you tell your friends, share. We want to have you guys part of what we're doing at On3, and you can join right now, Bamainsider.com with On3, $1 for an entire year. Take advantage of that. And I saw some of you guys in the message board saying, hey, I'm going to put my dollar on it. Big Buck, you're saying you're doing it. Mike Coleman, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for being part of what we do. And look, we'll have Thursday. I'll be back with Jay Barker at 2:00. And then Friday night, my first tailgate show, which I can't wait, will be at Innisfree in Tuscaloosa. That'll be a show that'll kick off at 6:00, 6 to 8. And then after the game, I'll be back for the post-game show. And so Joseph will be covering everything that's going on in recruiting. He's going to hit the sidelines on Friday. So we're going to be really busy. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.